Sir, on Shabbos actually, I pulled this book out by we've mentioned Rabbi Bartzadok
Yeah.
on a few occasions. This is I think this might be his most recent publication, even though it was published in 2023.
He had
I
a couple of books out come out the same year, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but this is one of his recent things. And in this book, he mentions this whole situation about demons, and shadim and fallen angels and all the rest of it. And within, I guess, the context, I was thinking about it within the context of UFOs, and I'm sure he also was, even though he doesn't really outright mention it, because History Channel called him to go to Skinwalker Ranch. Remember that episode that we
Yeah.
and he came there. It was actually quite funny. Like he helped them out to kind of identify what the heck they're looking at from a spiritual perspective, and then he went to pray, the evening prayer, and then they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Rabbi Bartzadek is going to, pray this special
Special prayer, and it's just
prayer
like
incantation. It's
it's just the
Mariv."
evening service.
Yeah, service with the Shema,
The
the Shema
regular
Israel.
old,
Yeah,
the most
yeah,
regular evening
right.
prayer service that every single Jew
Yeah,
who prays 3 times a day says.
yeah. Okay, so basically, it talks about here. Okay, I'm gonna just read if you don't mind. There's a section here about demons themselves, and he goes into here. This is about demons. Oh, before that, I'm sorry, because this is relatively short. I want to read to you the section about actually demons and kind of shadim and fallen angels, dibukim, I guess the possessions.
Yeah.
Just one second, I apologize. I didn't prepare for this, but I thought of it right before. Real angels and okay, fine. It's about angels. Okay. So here it goes. It goes, this is the section. Okay,
Greg,
fine.
I'm judging you.
Yes, good. So he goes, well, okay, demons are among us. They are possessing our souls. Be afraid, be very afraid. Well, maybe not. Maybe these scary old ghoul type demons conjured up by Hollywood are only as real as the silly movies in which they appear. But I am sure that there are many out there who live their daily lives in fear of these other dimensional beings, be they real or imagined. So let us address the issues with the reality of demons and what is their real way of interaction with the human race. First of all, according to almost every religious and spiritual tradition that I know of, demons are a very real race of beings with whom we share our planet Earth. Excuse me. Now, this statement alone, I know will unnerve many of you. I'm unnerved, Mr. Frank.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't. For once we understand a little more about demons, we will come to view them more as a race of intelligent yet potentially dangerous beings who mind their own business in their own place rather than as evil minions of the devil out to cast our souls into hell. Hmm. Each religious culture, excuse me, my God, and tradition has its own understanding about malevolent spirits that inhabit our earth. But these spirits are not necessarily demons. The understanding of demons embraced in the modern secular world has its origins in the teachings of the Catholic Church. Think of the movie The Exorcist. The view of the church has been around for a long time, and their views and ideas reach far beyond their own borders. But the Torah understanding of demons is not so black and white simple as it is for the church. Indeed, our brethren in Islam know of the demons whom they call the jinn in a way very similar to our Torah. The Talmud and peripheral rabbinic literature is full of revelations and information about demons, shadim. So let no one say that the belief in demons is relegated only to the Kabbalists, for this is not so. Torah-based rationalists since the days of Maimonides have wanted to dismiss the actual tangible reality of demons, but such an outright denial would put one into outright denial of our Talmud and our rabbinic tradition. No true student of Torah would ever do such a thing. They're a real shadim, but for the most part, they are not what most people think them to be. When we think of shadim and jinn, we conjure up thoughts of evil, ugly beings who are the minions of the Satan, whose sole intent is to harm and torture naive human souls. We think of shadim as the ones who possess human beings, as portrayed in countless movies. But this is not accurate. Those entities that possess human beings are not shadim at all. The spirits that possess human beings are called dibukim, from the root word dibuk, which means to cling. In reality, they are the disincarnate human souls of the dead that seek to enter into and can take control of the body of another living person in an attempt to take control of those bodies as so as to coerce and manipulate their behaviors. Oh my God. Dibukim are the souls of the dead who are fleeing the afterlife and who are terrified to face their heavenly judgment. They thus run away from the angels of judgment sent to retrieve them and seek to hide within the bodies of living human beings and to experience life all over again through them. Oh my God, who the hell would want to do that? Needless to say, such activity is considered a very serious spiritual crime. There is an entire group of angels assigned to the task of hunting down wayward souls and, upon discovery, to drag them into the afterlife to face their just sentence. It's like a bounty hunters for neshamas.
Yeah.
For the most part, Dibukim go to great lengths so as not to appear as evil, ugly monsters. They are most often malevolent, lost human souls whose intent is to live again through their hosts. They do not seek to destroy their hosts nor torment them. Listen to this. However, most Dibukim are thrill seekers and unrepentant hedonists. They often compel their hosts to perform acts of wanton lust so as to experience those pleasures through them. We have often heard someone say that they don't know what led them to act in a certain way that they did. Sometimes wanton, reckless, dangerous, and immoral actions are not ones of personal choice, but rather ones of compulsion from a hidden soul that possesses one. The Bukim almost always focus on hedonistic pleasures. They usually do not concern themselves with philosophical issues. In other words, a Dibuk rarely engages its host in inner dialogue trying to get the host to adopt a different philosophy of life or to convert to another religion. If any such inner dialogue was to occur, it would be for the purpose of expanding opportunities of hedon pleasures. It's almost like how you explain guys who are religious but who do whatever stuff with whatever. Almost all exorcisms are geared towards the removal of the disincarnate human soul who is fleeing judgment and hiding out in a naive human host. Exorcisms of this kind can often be a frightening experience. To this day, these unfortunate events still occur. However, most authentic Kabbalistic exorcists will never divulge personal experiences other than in the most general of ways. There are still a great number of secrets with regards to souls and the afterlife which most in the know agree should be kept secret. About 100 years ago, however, one rabbi did lift the veil and wrote about his exorcism encounters. I actually read this book. This rabbi was Rabbi Yehuda Fetaya. His book, Minchat Yehuda, very scary book, by the way, Haruchot Mesaprot, The Spirits Speak, is available in English translation. I myself translated large selections of the text in 1993. Since my efforts, others have come forth and translated the entire book. It should be readily available for those interested in this topic, but be warned, such reading is not for the easily frightened. Yeah, it's a crazy book. Now that we've discussed the Bukim and distinguished them from the Shedim, let us return to discuss the Shedim and discuss what it is that some of them actually do. First and foremost, we must declare that Shedim are not the fallen angels spoken of in Genesis 6. These fallen angels are another group that we will discuss shortly. Shedim are a race of beings created by God who are indigenous to our earth. They are an elder race to humanity, and we share our earth with them. Like human beings, some of them are righteous and good, while others of them are wicked and evil. The righteous and good ones usually stay far away from human beings and rarely interact. The bad ones, however, are the ones with whom we need to contend. Now, that being said, we need to reveal that this earth upon which we live is far grander and greater in scope than what meets our physical eye. Anyone with meditative or astral travel experience may have visited other realms right here on earth that do not seem to exist anywhere here on earth. This is no contradiction, neither is it a delusion. The fact is that there is more than one dimension of life right here on our earth. Many different races share our earth with us, but each inhabits its own relative dimension of time and space. And this may or may not include inner earth and the realms existing down there, be they in this dimension or parallel one. In classical literature, about the Rebbe Natan and elsewhere, it is said that Shedim are like human beings in three ways and like angels in three ways. As to which angels reference is not made, nor is it important. Like angels, Shedim can apparently fly, be invisible, and know the future for as much as 30 days to come. Like human beings, Shedim eat and drink, sexually procreate, and die. This description helps us draw some interesting conclusions about the actual nature of these created beings. It also arouses some concerns with regards to some modern day issues associated with aliens and alien abductions. Shadim give the appearance that they fly, that they can be invisible. Rather than subject these powers to myths and legends, Let us understand them more scientifically. In order for real Shadim to act in this way, it will mean that they exist side by side with us in a higher parallel dimension of space and time. They act in the ways that are normal and natural for the dimensional plane. Although they exist in their dimensional plane, they also have access to ours. They seem to have this access in an easy and natural way. Human beings can also access the higher dimensional plane inhabited by the Shadim and others, but this requires of the human advanced training and meditative practices that enables one to travel astrally outside the physical body, limited as it is to three-dimensional space. What is interesting to note is that Shadim procreate sexually, and we have a long history of documentation detailing numerous episodes of Shadim breeding with and procreating with human beings. As strange as this may sound to some, it seems to happen so often that one may question just how irregular it is. For hundreds of years, rabbinic sages have written works documenting how Shadim sexually breed with human beings and do so with great desire. Indeed, we have documentation of human shed marriages, and in one such instance, recorded in the book Kav HaYashar, I guess the straight path, the hybrid offspring of such a union actually appears in a human court of law, Beit Din, to plead their case over the right of inheritance.
Kavya Hayashar was some sort of halachic text, by the way.
Let's see.
He probably gives a reference there.
He doesn't give any reference. Kav HaYashar
Kavya
was
Hayashar,
it was known it
page
was
68, something 68, something like that.
he doesn't give any ref. Oh yeah, 68, 69. Yes. You're right. Oh wow. Authored by Tzvi Hirsch Kaidanover in I guess the mid 1600s. A rabbi at Frankfurt and son of Samuel Karnover is an ethical Kabbalistic collection of stories, moral guidance, and customs. One of the most popular works of Musar literature. It serves as a guide to God-fearing piety and to preserving the norms of the community, framing his teachings in the context of individual providence and the reckoning of sins and merits. The title of the work alludes to the number of chapters it contains. Kav, it means 102, as well as the author's middle name, anagrammic to Hayashar, Hirsch and Hayashar. Interesting. Is known for uplifting the spirits of Jewish communities in Europe after the Khmelnytsky massacres. First published in 1705 in Frankfurt, has appeared over 80 editions. Okay. Yeah. It draws on Yesod Yosef, a Musar work infused with Kabbalistic teachings of Isaac Luria, written by Kadnover's teacher Yosef Yoske of Dubno. It constitutes a deliberate effort to popularize Tzfatian Kabbalah, like Safedian from Tzfat, by adopting a much more understandable style in Hebrew. Relatedly, it reflects some extent a Kabbalistic dualism, dividing all aspects of reality according to their affinity, either with the divine or with impurity. So basically, it talks about this whole thing, and then it says human shed hybrids are said to be highly sought after in the Shadim realm and are considered to be something like a noble class. When one reads in modern UFO literature, here we go, about so-called alien abductions, these patterns sound identical to those attributed to the passage in the passage Shadim. Maybe this association will help those who believe in aliens, but not in Shadim, to finally become aware that the two are most likely one and the same. For centuries, Shadim had ran a breeding program to infiltrate themselves among human beings. While the ancient literature on the subject is there, it often goes untranslated and thus unnoticed. But there are authors today who have noticed the hybrid program and the many hybrids among us. Authors like David M. Jacobs and John E. Mack have covered this subject and have published some very interesting observations and conclusions, the likes of which most certainly do not contradict anything in Torah literature. Whatever it is and whoever is behind it, there does seem to be a hidden agenda by some higher dimensional beings to solidify their forms here in our three-dimensional space-time. As to what this agenda may be, we will discuss shortly. However, there is more to the story. We have yet our third group of entities who are not Shadim and who are not disincarnated human souls. These are the fallen angels, the sons of God, referenced in Genesis 6, who have become entrapped here on earth. Let us now discuss them. Genesis 6 speaks of a group of angels who descended to earth in the attempt to make this world a better place, at least from their own point of view. Unfortunately, they themselves fell victim to the same crushing energy forces of physicality that compromises even the most spiritual of souls. Rather than remain fluid, balancing themselves between the higher and lower dimensional planes.
Can we slow down for a second?
Yeah.
I just want to stop you for a minute.
Yeah.
Those fallen angels, right? They came to earth because they were complaining about the job that man was doing.
Yeah.
They they thought that they should be the ones doing it,
Mhm.
and that God was telling them not to go, but he was doing so for their protection. Meaning he didn't want to subjugate them. And so they decided, that God might be telling them to do it like either subtly or he needs them to do it, but he just doesn't have the heart to send them down there.
Yeah.
So instead of taking God at his word, they came there and they realized that they were no match, that they were not made to be able to function in the earthly environment, and they fell harder than man, much harder than man, and also they fell instantly. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So rather than remain fluid, balancing themselves between these higher and lower dimensional planes, as do the Shadim, these angels, like Adam before them, became completely immersed in the physical dimension. They ended up succumbing to physical lust and began to mate with human women.
Hang on a second. What did he say about the Shadim? What did he
That
say?
Shadim are, like he goes, rather than remain fluid, balancing themselves between the higher and lower dimensional planes, as do the Shadim, or as the Shadim are able to do, these angels, like Adam before them, became completely immersed in this physical dimension. They ended up succumbing to physical lusts and began to mate with human women. Their hybrid children, the Nephilim, thwarted and corrupted the natural order, turning the world into a sexually perverted and violent hell. The Bible relates to us what happened soon thereafter with the flood of Noah. So what happened to these fallen angels after the flood? What happened to their children, the Nephilim? Where are they today? While the written Torah does not discuss details of this, the oral Torah does reveal the secrets. The fallen angels were not human beings. Although they could take on human form, they were not bound to it. They existed in the same dimensional plane as do the Shadim. This is why many times, for many different reasons, one group is mistaken to be the other. But the fallen angels came down to earth with good intent, despite being rebellious. The punishment of heaven towards them was most fitting. Being that they came to help humanity, their punishment was that they would be forced to complete the job. They were sentenced to remain earthbound until the ultimate repair, tikkun, of the Adamic race is complete. Heaven established a special body of angelic governors who serve as the angelic princes over the nations, the lower heavenly Sanhedrin. These fallen angels, who have not yet been able to reascend to heaven to serve as the spiritual Sanhedrin court that directs the course of nations, they receive their instructions from the watcher angels, who in turn receive their instructions up through the chain of command directly from God.
Okay, let's stop.
Yeah.
The ministering angels that we've been talking about this whole time,
Mm-hmm.
from the first time we've had these conversations, right, are one and the same as the fallen angels.
He goes on to say this.
I know. I just wanted to.
Okay.
You read real fast,
I'm sorry.
and
Well, I mean,
everything you read is like super casual. Like you're reading
yeah.
like the sports,
Yes.
scores and stuff
Yes.
like that, or like the traffic reports.
Yes.
That's how you read.
Yes.
All right, continue, please.
And so the princes of the nations, the original fallen angels, reign over the affairs of humanity, all the while that God pursues his plan for the ultimate redemption of humanity. Now, these princes have not yet been able to realign themselves with heaven's purified energy field. Therefore, they still suffer from some of the effects experienced by being subject to contact with the Earth's energy field. In other words, these fallen angels still do not act angelic. It is well known even from the Bible that angels fight with one another. For example, in the book of Daniel, we see that the angel Gabriel, who was on a mission from God to bring Daniel an answer to his prayer, was stopped at the border of Persia, where Daniel lived, by Persia's angelic prince. The prince of Persia has jurisdiction over his domain, even to the point of being able to prevent entry to a visiting angel, even one with the stature of Gabriel. Gabriel had to return to heaven and bring Michael along with him in order to contend with the angel of Persia. Michael, who some believe is actually a Metatron, overrode the prince of Persia, something that Gabriel was not capable of doing. So, to this day, we have the angelic princes of the nations who live side by side with the Shadim. Most likely, these fallen angels dominate the Shadim, for better or for worse, and use them however it is that they see fit. But just how far this relationship goes, we cannot say. What we can say is that both races share the same dimensional plane, and according to many sources, both inhabit inner Earth. It is interesting to consider the relationship of the Shedim breeding program, the hybrids born from it, and the alleged infiltration of large numbers of these hybrids in the present human population, just as it was in the generation of Noah. Ancient lore and modern UFO lore seem to overlap and merge into one. But are we talking about mere stories and legends, or is there something more to all this? Are there really hybrid human Shadim living among us? How would we ever know? What would we look for? How would they be recognized? While modern UFO lore has no answer to these questions, ancient Kabbalistic teachings do have answers. Unlike modern scientific models, ancient religious and spiritual traditions from around the world speak about the existence of a soul. A soul is simply a true energetic entity that lives within the shell of whatever body it inhabits. We human beings have a soul. We have an Adamic soul. The Adamic soul resonates its own unique energy frequency and vibration. Other life forms each have their own level of soul, each with its own unique energy frequency and vibration. Most of us today have lost all sensitivity to read or to feel the energy vibrational signatures of another. Nevertheless, a remnant of this still exists in many. How many times have we met someone or have gone somewhere and suddenly get a really bad feeling about the person or place? Some call this a gut instinct, but regardless of what it's called, the sensation received is quite real. Anyone experiencing such a sensation knows very well how true this is. Regardless of the voices of others who may wish to be rational in their own minds and to dismiss such feelings as fantasy. I've had that many times. People tell me I'm crazy for noticing certain things. In ancient spiritual teachings taught throughout history around the world, students have been trained to become sensitive to these energetic signatures and to distinguish between one type or another. In biblical times, we call this type of sight Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration. Today, many call this clairvoyance. Descriptive names are not important. What is important is the cultivation of this refined insight that enables one to read energy signatures. Angels, demons, normal people, people with a dibbuk, animals, extraterrestrials, each has their own unique energy signature. Regardless of the form of body they inhabit, one sensitive to energy signatures can see from a distance who is who within the physical body. Many today call energy signatures auras. Thus, the clairvoyant, speaking of auras, we just had a whole discussion. Our friend that sent us some glasses.
Oh,
Thus,
That was Eric who posted that.
yeah, that wasn't
I
me. That
want
was
to talk,
Eric.
I want to talk to you about that. I have
Yeah,
some
we
information on
will. We will. Thus, the clairvoyant read the auras of people and can see within them almost a full technical readout of their soul and the condition of the soul. Those who correctly and successfully perform energy healing make use of this technique. One frightening thing is clear. Not all human beings today have human souls. Trudeau. This is very clear to those with a clairvoyant eye.
folks. Rabbi Bartzadok did not write Trudeau. That's great.
I said, yes, that
Added
is me saying
commentary.
Trudeau, Macron, a few other people we can think of.
Yeah.
Fauci, probably. But even the rest of us can recognize non-human souls simply by looking at their behaviors, feelings, and thought processes of a person. Oh, Bill Gates also, by the way. Those who act cruelly towards animals, and most certainly towards other human beings, may very well be doing so because they lack a human soul.
What about Nick Fuentes and
Oh
Candace
yeah.
Owens
Oh yeah.
and Jake
Oh yeah.
Shields and
Yes.
Bill's Rat
Yeah.
and Tate.
And what's his name? The guy oh, whatever. Also, we see a rising number of
Many.
individuals who are not only non-religious, but actually anti-religious. We see a growing animosity towards anything related to God, scripture, and traditional religion and moral values. We see a growing hatred towards God and an equally growing adoration of the Satan and the hedonistic negative world outlook that it entails. Individuals of these orientations tend to have very shallow moral values and are often a danger to others and many times even to themselves. They defy anything and everything sacred and holy and do so with joy and zeal. Individuals of these orientations emanate a spirit that from them that few people fail to recognize. When, however, we seek to identify the soul origins of certain individuals, needless to say, we must be very cautious. There's no shortage of evil and wicked individuals out there who act with total disdain and disregard towards others and toward life itself. Such behaviors do indicate that one's energy signature may indeed be something other than human, but it is not proof positive. Great discretion is required to read human souls. but be it clairvoyance or Ruach HaKodesh, only the one with the psychic eye can truly recognize psychic things. Human souls are created in the image of God. As such, there is an inherent sense of morality and goodness within the soul. Now, granted, not everybody created in divine image lives up to the lofty potential that lies within them. But there is still a big difference between those who do wrong due to weakness or confusion and those who choose to do wrong willingly and knowingly, in seeming defiance to all things right and good. These different types of individuals clearly emanate different types of auric energy signatures. While most cannot see them, many can sense or feel them. Now let us ask the unasked question. Why would Shadim, alongside their fallen angels, alongside them, fallen angels, desire or want to merge with flesh and blood human beings? What advantage does being human offer to any of these other entities? What is their agenda? The answer to this is rather simple, although at the same time it is rather diabolical. Fallen angels, who are now the princes of the nations, and Shadim each have their own individual agendas, which just so happen to overlap. Remember, each group live here on Earth, but in a slightly altered parallel dimensional state. Angelic princes and Shadim both can and do take on physical human appearances and interact with humans all the time. But for whatever reasons, guided by the laws of physics that their original forms are subject to, they cannot maintain human forms for any long-term period. Apparently, their human manifestations are only temporary. Maybe it requires of them too much energy to maintain those forms for any length of time. So in order to adjust this natural state of theirs, they seek human DNA. Thus, the more human DNA they have through interbreeding, the more they are able to maintain a presence in this dimensional plane. And now let us address why it is that they want to do this. Our physical human forms enable us to experience a wide variety of sensations. We are all aware of the levels of intense pleasure that can be received through numerous forms of physical activities. These include the uses of narcotics and alcohol, sexual promiscuity, and other forms of behaviors that cause chemical secretions in the human brain that create pleasure. The physical human body has been designed to experience these things, but apparently the original form of the bodies of the fallen angels, alongside the original form of the bodies of the Shadim, did not have such chemical receptors in their brains. Thus, they could observe the pleasure responses in human beings, but they were not able to experience them for themselves. Even when they took upon themselves a temporary human form, this only enabled them to have a temporary and limited experience of human pleasures. Essentially, these races were jealous of a human ability to experience sensations. As we know, our experience of sensations occur due to chemical reactions in the human brain. Is it then a surprise to us when we hear of alien abduction stories that speak about sexual experimentation and the specific removal of certain chemicals from either the human brain or body? Whoever is performing these abductions is clearly looking for something specific. And as wise King Solomon said, there is nothing new under the sun. The fallen angels and those Shadim who have joined their cause have been pursuing this research for thousands of years. It is only in modern times that we human beings are beginning to understand that there really is a rhyme and reason to all the ancient stories about demonic abductions, human sacrifice to demons, and other similar accounts. Throughout the centuries and even in the recent modern times, with the operation of the Nazi death camps, willing human beings have been participating with these other races to feed them human lives. Human souls and human bodies are joined together by the universal energy field. This field goes by many different names, such as nefesh, hiyuli, ki, chi, orgon, prana, kundalini, shekhinah, and now I believe 0 point energy. This is the life force of the universe. It is also the universal commodity of value. Consider it to be the money of the universe. In order for a human soul to inhabit a human body, a certain amount of life force energy must be drawn in by the two in order to merge into them into one. This merger then becomes a living and vibrant human being. The original bodies of fallen angels and Shadim could not absorb this life force energy in such a pure and unadulterated state. They therefore needed to water it down in order to be able to use it. By influencing human behaviors to be more in alignment with the direction and compulsions that the fallen angels and certain Shadim can place within human minds, human life force energy becomes diluted and thus consumable by these other races. The weakened life force is then conserved and used to construct more permanent human bodies within which these other races can inhabit. This is what has been behind the hybrid breeding program since its inception. According to the Torah, the breeding program began long before the coming to earth of the fallen angels in Genesis 6. Some Shadim began this program when they first influenced Cain to kill his brother Abel. The original realignment began with Cain's soul. This is what led to the almost total loss of his genetic progeny. Of course, some did survive the flood and prosper afterwards, but not on the face of this earth. But this is a topic for another time. To become human so as to experience human sensations in full, this has been the obsession of these other races for a very long time. But we should not conclude that this is their only agenda. Remember, the fallen angels are the princes of the nations. They are here to, under divine command, to guide the course of humanity to the good goal of righteous and moral behavior. They cannot fulfill their mission if and when humanity, or those appearing to be human, are all acting wantonly with violence and out of control hedonism. No, those who are out of control must be brought under control. And this is where the hybrid breeding program takes its last step. These princes of the nations and those shadim serving under them have sought to manipulate, a couple of pages, human beings both genetically through their breeding program and socially through their infiltration of human society. The end purpose of this program is to remove independent free will from the hearts and minds of human beings. Their goal is to create a race of docile human beings who will do what they are told. In this way, the princes of the nations can turn to God and proclaim, "Behold, we have brought peace to earth and unity to humanity." Of course, the cost of all of this is the perennial imprisonment of the very human Adamic soul sent here in the first place to accomplish all these things. But the fallen angels want it this way to prove to heaven that the only good and docile human beings are the ones who are not fully human by divine standards. Of course, this is not the divine plan. And so the fallen angel plan and the divine plan are at odds with one another. Righteous and moral human beings who stand by their faith and believe in God and their respective religions try to maintain a lifestyle of independence and morality outside of the influence of our earthly overlords. And so there is an ever-growing conflict between those who serve the plan of the fallen angel overlords and those who still stubbornly cling to God. And so we have the setup for the final battle of good versus evil, the likes of which has been written about and prophesied for many thousands of years. So here we are, living in a multi-dimensional reality. We human beings are normally only aware of a single dimensional reality. Other races of this earth living side by side with us exist in the higher dimensions alongside with this one. As such, these higher dimensional entities can enter and exit our dimension at will. Their entrance or exit appears to us as if they instantly appear out of nowhere and then dematerialize back into nothingness. This is only our perception, because we do not have the consciousness nor the sensory apparatus built into us to see the higher dimensions. These higher dimensional beings recognize that human souls have a great life force energy source packed into them. They also know present human limitations. Therefore, for the most part, these higher dimensional entities look at human beings as lower life form and as a food source, corralled and ready to be harvested. The fallen angels and their Shadim cohorts have an agenda. They are seeking the maintenance of their own races while at the same time keeping humanity under control for their own personal benefits and usages. Above the fallen angels in the chain of command are the Watchers. The Watchers, as Watchers, their job is to observe, not to engage. They see what the princes of the nations do, but they do not judge. That is not their job. Yet at the appointed times, the Watchers give their reports to the authorities above them, and judgment is ordained but only by God Himself. God watches humanity, and equally God watches the activities of the Shadim, the fallen angels, and anyone else who gets involved with experiment Earth. God observes how individual human beings respond to the numerous choices and decisions that are placed daily before them. We are judged by our actions and our choices. Throughout human history, there have always been infiltrators, non-human souls who inhabit human bodies, who then rise to positions of power, and in turn wreak havoc upon humanity in all too many ways. We can recognize them as the perpetrators of wanton violence, depravity, hatred, and cruelty. These behaviors, alongside rampant hedonism, which is an uncontrollable obsession with physical sensations, thrills, and pleasures, are good markers to identify foreign souls concealed within human bodies. So, what is one supposed to do with the information revealed therein? For the most part, this information is academic in nature. It is meant to be informative, and that's all. But for some others, the insights revealed therein might inspire one to make every effort to live a moral and righteous life. In the days of Noah, God sent the flood over the earth to remove the contamination of the hybridization common in those days. Prophecy states that in the days before the coming of Mashiach, there will be many great battles. Yet the greatest of battles is the internal individual struggle wherein each human being must decide to which influence he will succumb. Each human being must decide if one desires to identify and associate with one's spiritual origins, or with the new image and identity that the forces of the other side, Sitra Achra, have in store for the human race. God allows this scenario to play out. God sees all the non-humans in human bodies who blaspheme him daily. God doesn't care about the petty behaviors of wayward non-human souls. Those incarnate into human beings who do not belong here will be returned to their places of origin, just as it was done in the aftermath of the great flood in the days of Noah. In the meantime, we each see the culture war raging around us. We are falsely led to believe that it is a war between two social factions with different political visions. But the present war is far more than this. It is a war between the heavenly forces themselves. It is a war between good and evil, between human souls and non-human souls. This insight should not come as a shock to anyone. It should be clear and evident. Those who hate God, His word, and His way rebel against these things with great joy and pleasure. They revel in their new human forms, hoping to subdue all humanity to their whims and ways. And God watches to see who will succumb, who will stand strong. A new flood of cleansing will soon come to cleanse the earth again. Life on earth must spiritually evolve and progress on to the next stage of existence. We call this the Messianic age. This present period of testing here in the schoolhouse earth will determine who gets promoted into the Messianic age and who will be left back to start life from scratch all over again on some distant foreign world. And it talks about primordial kings and their agenda. If you want to continue reading, I could. This is more Kabbalistic kind of stuff, more complicated. It's interesting, man. So all this UFO thing is connected to everything that's been going on with
Right. So
hoax.
right. So Bart Saluk has been saying this for years already.
Mhm.
And literally everything that he's talking about is like slowly coming out, where the UFO community, or the ufologists, they used to say aliens from another planet. Now all of them, almost in unison, are saying precisely what he said. They're just not caught up with him on the whole Shadim thing, and the fact that they're being led by factions of ministering angels, of the fallen, of the Nephilim, and all this kind of. They're not there yet. Okay, but that's for the folks listening to this. Now you know what's next, right? You have these new guys on the scene: Jake Barber, Colonel Blitch, these direct witnesses, right? These tier one operators, Delta Force, Army Rangers, Green Berets, right? All of these guys who have been recently, interviewing and spilling what they know with Ross Coulthart, right? They're all saying exactly what Rabbi Bar Tzadok has been saying all along, and what the Torah has been talking about all along. They don't admit it, though. They don't admit it. It's difficult for me to believe that they're not aware, that they're not just secretly studying the Torah, and or it's as if they don't know that that's what it says. I find it difficult to believe that anybody in that world who studies this topic would ignore the ancient Jewish texts, or not view the ancient Jewish texts and the Torah as the primary source for the best information, because it's the most well preserved, the most consistent, and the most studied ancient information in the world. You go to India, you go to Iran, you go to all these ancient, you don't have such carefully preserved traditions and texts. You don't have entire academies in every single community studying these texts obsessively, right? And preserving them carefully for thousands of years. So the Talmud and the Kabbalah are all perfect, are all the best ancient source knowledge that there is, and the best preserved and the most studied. And you're telling me that they're ignoring it? No, they're using it as probably as their primary data source to work off of, but they're just not admitting it. Okay, but mark my words that what you just heard, right? Those of you listening to this for the first time, record it and listen to it again. Better yet, buy the book, right? And then you will see this is how the UFO narrative will unfold. Okay, because we already have, you know, Rabbi Bart Sadek was talking about meditative techniques to enter in the higher realms and to communicate with these beings, right? That live in parallel dimensions here with us, right? So instead of shadim, they're calling them, with the modern UFO narrative, they're calling them NHI, non-human intelligence, right? They're not calling them space aliens anymore or Martians. They're calling them non-human intelligence. Okay. They say that they live under the ocean, right? That's one hop, skip, and a jump away from inner Earth. Okay, that's going to be the next thing. Okay, they live in the oceans. Soon it's going to be under the oceans, which means under the earth. Okay, and then you're going to see, instead of NHI, they're going to talk about like the term shadim is going to be. I wonder, Greg, how long it's going to be until everything is blatantly out in the open. They're like, yeah, these are shadim, and they are, they work hand in hand with this angelic race who came here.
You're saying you wonder when they're going to start saying like actual parlance,
like
Torah,
like literally word for word what
Yeah.
we just described, right? What Bart Sadek was writing about. I wonder when it's just going to be out in the open. Like these are Nephilim, and these are the ministering angels, and here's what happened, and then I can't wait to see how the narrative is. See, the problem is that the people who are trying to control the narrative right now,
Gnostic fruitcakes.
they seem to be Gnostic fruitcakes, and there's a strong anti-Jewish element.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just accidentally listening to another interview by Ross Coulthart, where he was interviewing some professor from Montana State or from University in Montana, who is a mathematician physicist. I forgot his name, but he thinks that the UFOs are time travelers and they're us or something like that. And then they were talking about how a lot of the sightings that they did fit together with ancient narrative, right? So Ross Coulthart said, he was naming, like, he was a Native Americans, ancient, he mentions, and then he said ancient Israelite. He didn't say Jewish. He said ancient Israelite, meaning not current Israelite, ancient Israelite. And then the professor that he was talking about was saying, in the Palestine area, things that come from the Palestine area. Okay. So if you take, folks, if that was the only little comment, right, that was made for me to make a decision, I probably wouldn't make an entire decision based on who these people are just off of that comment. But I've been observing these people for a long time now. Okay. Or more recently, this other guy, one of the new guys who did the most recent interview, one of the, from the Jake Barber team, right? The psionic team, right? They keep saying this word psionic. We got to play some of these. We should play these interviews, basically. We should probably play the Jake Barber, like, full interview.
We could.
And we could do it in multi-stages. We could just listen and then stop and come, because this is the latest stuff going on. You know what I mean? Like, this is the latest stuff. So, and I want you folks, I want our watchers to really understand what is unfolding. We're not telling you to believe it. Just be aware of the latest developments and what's unfolding, because you're watching something that is clearly part of the messianic revelation. Okay, I'm not saying that these people are doing this consciously, or but it's the unfolding process, because they're talking about things that are supernatural and spiritual. They went from science to spiritual now. Everybody's saying it's spiritual. It's spiritual. How long have they been saying it's spiritual already? For a year? About a year now.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying it's spiritual in nature. It's spiritual. And then this Jake Barber guy was talking about, his version of the Shekhinah. He experienced when he was transporting the egg. Anyway, so
Yeah.
everybody will see what we're talking about in a second. But
Yeah.
but this latest guy from his team, right? He was saying, he goes, I'm a Christian,
Hmm.
but I could see how, so in my faith, there's no problem with NHI, right?
Hmm.
Because you look out and you see the vast universe that God created. There should be no problem with it. But I could see how somebody from the Muslim or the Jewish faith might find that problematic.
Hmm.
What? You see, like these are just two things that I heard literally just heard today, right? If you start to stuff into that equation Graham Hancock
Hmm.
and Randall Carlson and lots of Gnostic kind of anti-Jewish people,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, you'll see who's trying to get on top of the narrative.
Yeah.
Okay. And you start to wonder which ministering angel is
Yeah.
in charge of this project.
Yeah.
You start to wonder, can you physically punch the shit out of a ministering angel? And and
It's
and then you
entirely
start to
possible
wonder
you
how
might
much
be able
fun would
to.
it be to to kill one or to just drown one in a tub or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
or will we ever get the satisfaction of doing that? I wonder. These are Am I the only one who thinks about these things? Perhaps I am.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Um, Angels are kind of douchey to begin with, but these fallen ministering angels, guys, are probably, you know,
Yeah.
insufferable.
Yes. I mean, we've seen you remember the movie every time I think about you, the movie Dogma, the comedy, Chris Rock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think about those guys, the guy Bartleby and Loki, the guys played by Matt Damon and
Yeah.
Ben Affleck actually.
Yeah,
And then there's a few famous actors in there.
yeah,
Fascinating. There for me, there's a lot of connection between obviously there's connection between obviously what's been going on with COVID and the people that have been running this whole, you know, World Economic Forum trying to get people to take this mRNA, you know, and the fact that these people have basically hybrid, these people are hybrids of something or they don't even have souls. And then you have this, this whole, scenario with the UAPs. It's obviously all connected, and the fact that there's like basically this kind of like a blockage or delay in releasing information about it. There's people inside that obviously don't want that to happen.
yeah,
And the fact that Trump won and the fact that there's crazy opposition against him. And again, I tell this to people all the time. We know this that, he's like a guy like him, he's not going to come in like a pretty neat little package with a nice bow on top, you know? He's not going to be like so to speak digestible to everybody, palatable, but he's gonna bring the unabashed truth, and he's gonna do the things that need to be done, and it's gonna look like some people are gonna look at it in I guess horror. Some people are gonna say that it's just downright he's like delusional for even thinking, for example, that these people will accept, Jordan and Egypt will accept the Gazans or delusional in that he can deport all these illegals or these like murderers or
yeah,
whatever they are.
happening.
It's happening, but meaning like there's a lot of people who are just like either they're just flat out against it because they're against it, or flat out like saying this cannot, the can't be done crowd, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. The point is like,
There's a lot
yeah.
of over between those two.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But like the point is that it's all connected to, the opposition to really God, because everything that's been done by the people that are against Trump has been really against God. It's not just been against Trump. Trump is just a figurehead, a symbol of
Yeah,
that. So not to say there's any kind of Mashiach, but the point is they're against God. They're for sure against God. They are hybrids of something. They're trying to pull us away from, they're trying to rip away our DNA, separate our DNA from our neshama, and they're trying to turn us into like something akin to basically them, or something akin to, these things that we read about from Bartzadok, really, but even worse because it's like we're human, right? We're organic beings, so whatever they're trying to do to us, it's like it's not it's even worse than what, these Shadim are, or these Nephilim are, or whatever.
By the way,
Yeah,
based on what you read earlier from Rabbi Bartzadok, right?
yeah, yeah,
The ministering angels, their scheme to create a passive kind of being,
yeah.
right? The
This
human
is
being.
this is what this is.
That's
Yeah,
precisely what Larry Ellison
yeah.
saying about
I
AI.
I I I said that to my friend the other day. I said, I sent him a video by whatever of Alex Jones like speaking 8 years ago about this whole, basically what he wouldn't say it by name, but he was basically talking about Neuralink and how everything is just like turned into like, you're linking this crap to like our so-called, consciousness, and also our organic bodies.
Yeah.
And I said, now, this stuff is real. And now on top of that, and this Allison and Altman, they're trying to do all
And
this,
Musk.
and Musk also, they're trying to do this whole thing with this, now mixing mRNA with that and AI. It's literally like you're looking at this and you're just like,
Look,
so
these
I,
are
so
those
I
are
hope,
obvious.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I hope Trump is just parading them out in the open so that we could
Yeah.
see. I know Trump is
That,
not on board
that
with this
has to
crap.
be. That has to be
Yeah.
what this is because
Otherwise, I don't know what.
he's just showing you, Trump is like saying, like, look what they're,
Yeah.
I'm inviting them. They're going to come and reveal their plot,
Yeah. It's
right?
almost like in the movie. It's a reverse version of like in a movie where the villain invites James Bond to
Yeah,
his thing, and he's going to show him like, here's what I'm doing.
right.
He's
Instead,
inviting the villains. The good guys
yeah,
inviting the
but the
villains.
villain is always hiding on the bottom of the ocean,
Yeah, yeah,
in some
yeah,
volcano layer,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Instead of doing that,
yeah,
uh, Trump is inviting them and
yeah,
legitimatizing
yeah,
them,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Come and spill the beans of their nefarious plot,
yeah,
so that everybody hears about it and kind
yeah,
of wakes up like, wait, what,
yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah.
So,
AI and mRNA. What are we, robots? What is this crap? Like,
yeah, like
yeah,
it's as if he doesn't know that
yeah.
MAGA despises mRNA.
Of
Okay,
course,
he
of
knows.
course, of
So,
course.
I'm pretty sure,
Yeah,
but these guys, they must be the human liaisons to the ministering angels. Whoever's whoever's like completely like at the top of these programs, these AI kind of controlling everything, all of society, like the fucking WEF, that must be a
yeah,
ministering
yeah,
angel
yeah,
um, program. That's a project or something like that. So,
yeah, yeah.
all right, we know they're not going to win. We know
No,
that,
of
like,
course not.